Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of the Even Better podcast. I'm so glad you took some time to join us today. This is Sinikka Waugh, and this is part of our ongoing mission here at Your Clear Next Step to help us all have even better days so that we can continue to co-create even better communities. And I'm delighted to welcome as our guest, Lisa Even. Lisa, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. So, for those of you who do not know Lisa, you have got to wake up and join the movement. We are just so delighted to welcome Lisa as a guest today. Lisa is creating this amazing ripple effect. So, her mission to have a good ripple effect. She is a corporate culture junkie, is what she calls herself. But what I have encountered Lisa to do is she's on this mission to meet. When I first met her, she was on this mission to meet 1 million people, and she's a creator of joy in the spaces that she's in, and she's choosing joy both intentionally in her job and in her family. And together, she's creating spaces where what I've watched and witnessed in our one-on-one conversations and among people that I know that know her. So we're connected directly, as well as, our 6 degrees of separation, and there are lots of them. That everyone who encounters Lisa comes back just a little bit brighter, right? We all stand just a little bit taller and we smile just a little bit brighter. And we have this moment where we stop and we realize that this every day it's a choice, and every moment is a choice to choose to see what we want to see, and to choose to see the good and choose to move towards the good and towards the joy, instead of to hang out. And there's plenty of darkness out there, there's plenty of negativity, there's plenty of things we could be dissatisfied with. But Lisa, you have made this intentional movement towards joy, and I delight in that so much. And it's something that I as well have aspired to. And you made it so visible and so intentional. I just delight in that. And I'm so glad to have you sharing your words with our audience today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been, I started my business just a couple years ago, and I feel like it's been an amazing ride.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your story as you started your business. How did you come to this journey?
Yeah, I would say, gosh, if I rewind just a little bit, I grew up in healthcare. And, for me, when I think about healthcare being an amazing place because we're taking care of, people at their worst days of their lives, it's also a place that can be really heavy. And it was one of those things where, as a team leader, I said to my team, there's a lot of hard things, but there's also a lot of amazing things to celebrate. And I think that's really where I started to kind of like throw out these phrases of like, have good ripple effect. And, joy is our job. If we wait for joy to knock on our door, we might wait forever. And so I think that's really where it started. I did operational leadership, and then I moved into my own business, and I thought, this is going to be so great. I'm going to teach healthcare leaders how to lead people. And it was 2019. It was the end of the year, and then COVID hit. And a little side story, we had moved back to Iowa. So we had moved about 6 hours back. And so I didn't know anyone, and healthcare was busy. And I thought, oh, well, there you go. Like, how am I going to make this happen? And so that's really where my mission to connecting with 1 million started. It was kind of this almost a little bit of like, what does the world need? And what am I good at? And how in the world am I going to meet people? And it was the most fabulous, amazing journey that I've ever been on, because, I'll have a friend who says, you've got to meet my friend so-and-so. And I meet them, and it's like the ripple effect. I just get to continue to meet and meet and meet. And yeah, my biggest probably takeaways is that you never know who might say the thing that you just need to hear or introduce you to the right person. And I think that's a lot of what I hope to do, is inspire people to create impact and connect and be joyful.
Oh, I love that. What I love about your mission and the way you've approached this is, while your background and your niche and your business initially was founded in healthcare leadership, the message that you have is not just for leaders. It's not just for healthcare. It's for all of us, every one of us who are out there. Your message is not uniquely. So if our audience is sitting there listening and saying, well, but I'm not a leader in healthcare, that doesn't mean they have to turn off the podcast and stop listening right now, right? Your message is for all of us. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because I've been in all industries, I've been in associations, I've been at moms groups. You're right. It goes kind of across the board, whether it's like what impact do you want to create? And are you having fun doing it? Because you can do both. And the world can also be a little chaotic and hectic and busy and stressful, but you still deserve joy. And I talk about that a little bit in the book that I wrote of what if it's both? What if you don't wait for joy to find you? What if you don't wait for the next? Like, well, once my kids are bigger, or once I get that promotion, or once I get this, like, what if you didn't wait? Because it never fails. You hit a milestone and then you think, well, but after this next thing, like after I get this next promotion, then I will be more joyful. And sure enough, before you know it, there's another one, another thing in line. So yeah, it's for all humans really. And even my kiddos are now thinking about how they create joy. I was with a group of college students last week. It has no like barriers to age or industry or who you are. It's for everyone.
And this is definitely a time in our lives where we could all use a little bit more joy. For
Yeah.
sure. All right, so let's get into this. The topic today is 4 ways to create more joy. 4 ways to create more joy. So before we get too far into this, let me be really specific because you've chosen the word joy for a reason. So let's talk about why joy, and then let's talk about what those 4 ways are. Why joy, Lisa?
Yeah, I would say, this is the common question that I get. And it's so funny because, and maybe I'll tell the journey of how it started and then how it transitioned into joy. But about 7 years ago, my husband and I were sitting on the couch one night. And I remember like I had a glass of wine, we were eating popcorn and just kind of almost being zombies staring at the TV. And I was almost feeling a little bit frustrated that I was so exhausted. And I looked over at my husband and I said, we chase a lot of things. Like we chase our kids and the housework and our task list and our meetings at work and like all of these things, we chase them. And he's like, kind of like, he's a quieter guy. And he looks at me, he's like, yeah, like, almost like no surprise. And I was like, well, what if we could chase something else? Like, what if we could chase like fun or happiness or joy and we could measure it? Because I love, like, I'm a bubbly, but I'm like data driven. I think if you don't, for those of you who grow up in healthcare or finance or what have you, like we're measuring things. We're measuring how healthy we can get you. We're measuring, all that. And so a little part of me was like, well, what if we could track it somehow? And he's like, yeah, maybe. I mean, how would we do it? And I'm like, I don't know. And so we kept watching TV. And then a few days later, I was like, I'm going to buy a whiteboard at Home Depot. So I dragged this big whiteboard home and I put it in our bedroom. And I'm like, okay, could you just hang it like right next to our bed, like right here? And he looked at me and he's like, people don't have whiteboards in their bedroom. And I'm like, I know, but we do. I was like, hear me out. I think that joy and this feeling of just being alive starts with ideas. And so I want to put a board up on the wall and I want to create a joy list of things that we could do to have more fun and happiness and really ultimately create that like feeling alive feeling. And the only time we're together is before bed sometimes and then when we wake up. So I want to fall asleep thinking about joy and I want to wake up and I want to think about joy and the rest is history. So I think it was tied into this idea of almost going one step further than happy is like that just feeling of like aliveness. Because sometimes if we let our task list drive the bus, right? Like it's like, yeah, I'll do the next thing and I'll do the next thing. We forget that we could actually drive that bus and be like, well, let's get some stuff done on my task list, but let's like turn crappy to happy. Let's do some fun things along the way. So that's a long-winded way of saying that's why it's joy.
It's joy. I love it. So you are here to share with us 4 ways to create more joy. I mean, are we supposed to hang whiteboards in our bedrooms? Is that what we're supposed to do? Is that the first one? Hang a whiteboard in your bedroom? No, but okay.
Yeah, right. I laughed. No, that's not the first one, but I did have a friend say that they had painted a spot in their garage with chalk paint on the wall and their kids were making a joy list there. So I was like, that's a new one. I hadn't heard of creating it there, but I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say the first one is really around permission and mindset. And I think that sounds so like, well, duh, but it's really around this idea. I teach a lot of sessions around workplace joy or life joy. And everyone thinks it's really cute and really fun. And I say, okay, so tomorrow at 2:00, what do we got? And they all look at me like, well, no, I can't put it tomorrow. Like, I have to wait till Thursday. You know, and I laugh and I'm like, okay, this is our mind sneaking in and saying, you have to wait, or maybe you haven't earned it, or maybe we got to wait for the next thing. And so the first thing I would say is really shifting that mindset to, if you wait for joy to find you, you're going to wait forever. Like I would say, kind of like, good luck. Like, I hope it finds you. But the first order of business is to say, actually, I'm going to find it. Like, I'm going to create it, and I'm going to start to let my brain dream a little bit about the fact that I might be busy and joyful. I might have kids who have sticky fingers and are leaving like dirt tracks all over the house, and I'm still going to find joy. And I feel like that's a hard concept to be like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to tell myself that. But when I get to a couple of the other ones, the 2, 3, and 4, I think that you'll see like, okay, and maybe you just get in motion first, and then you go back to your mindset and you go, okay, fair enough. Let's do this.
Do this. So as a family, we've had this something nice. So every day you get to do something nice. You give yourself permission. We're achievers. There's a lot of achiever in our house. I don't think you become business owners if you're like, I'm a business owner, right? I don't think you do that if you don't have at least a little bit of achiever in you. My husband has led teams to the national championships. I don't think you do that without a lot of achiever in you. So we're achievers, but we give ourselves this permission. Like, what's your something nice? And every day there's what's your something nice? And we have this space at dinner time where we ask ourselves around the table, what was your something nice? And it's like tapping into that achiever and setting the expectation with our kids, who also may or may not have gotten a bit of the achieverness, but creating that space for them to have permission to do something nice, like something that makes you smile, something that lights you up, something that brings you, to use your word, joy, right? What's the thing that made you smile today? What's the thing that lit you up, that was not just checking a box? It was brightening the world.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way. I wrote it down, so I might be stealing that we do highs and lows, but I'm like, oh, that's a good one.
Share something nice. Share something nice. Oh, and one of the things I will not do is I will not turn out the light until I've done my something nice. So some nights it gets a little late, but I will not turn out the light until I've done my something nice. All right. So what's a second thing that's a way to create more joy?
Yeah, I think that it's really this concept of creating a list. And I've created a couple of ways to do that. And then I've also got folks that are kind of reporting back and being like, Lisa, I did my list. Like, I was on a conference call yesterday and someone they had a paper, like their journal, and they were like, here's my list. And I was like, yay, like I love that. But the reason why I say a list, and then I'll maybe tell you a little bit give you some ideas, is, when you go to, let's say, dinner, or you're going to order food and you're like, what do you want? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? And you kind of waste, in essence, a little bit of time because you're trying to be nice to the other person, but you're also like not sure and you don't know. And so it's like this moment when you finally have the time for it, right? We're ordering food, we're going out to dinner. If you haven't, created an idea or a thought around it, you waste time. And sometimes it's even like, I don't know, we'll just eat something here, right? Like the experience isn't teed up for you to be able to just like do it. And so I liken that to having a joy list is the key. And it's like almost like a grab and go bag, like for a CIA agent, where it's like, all right, I got my go bag, let's go. And so I mean, it's so corny, but it's so true, because we started with a whiteboard and then we moved it to more of like our calendar. My kids, I wish I had one at my desk, but I often will give them a blue piece of paper, and it literally is typing paper, printed the word joy at the top, because sometimes I run out of ideas, and I put it in front of them and I'm like, what should we do for joy? And my daughter, hers, I wonder if I have one here. I might actually have an old copy. Let me see if I can grab it. One of our first joy lists, and I know you probably can't read it, but it's like the most adorable little thing. And some of our ideas were things like family game night, make donut balls, go to the pool, make tie-dye, McDonald's play place, which I'm like, ugh, well, all the germs. But, if you put a piece of paper in front of like your kiddos or even yourself, and you start thinking, yeah, if I had a little bit of time, what would I do? that's where the magic happens. Because then when you have a Friday night, or even you're thinking about, oh, what are we going to do this weekend? And you're like, I don't know, let me grab that sheet of paper. And you'll find yourself being like, yeah, we could probably make donut balls. I mean, they might be a little gross because we don't know what we're doing. But so, yeah, number 2 is really get out there and make that list, whether it's a chalkboard in your garage or a piece of paper. I have a joy list in my phone. I carry that with me because sometimes I'm not here to like handwrite it. I do love a little handwritten, like check it off. So put it somewhere that makes sense for you, but have that list.
Oh, that's really, really lovely. So I can think of practical application to that. I'm going to do a quick shout out here in Indianola to Charlotte's Kitchen. So Charlotte's in Indianola has the chicken and the cheese curds and the Brussels sprouts that bring our family joy without fail. Like whatever's going on, our whole family will just go, yes, this is it. This is joy. I'm in whatever kind of day we're having, however hard anybody has worked, however under the weather anyone is feeling, Charlotte's will absolutely bring us joy. And I know for sure that if anybody took a second and created a joy list in our family, it would have Charlotte's on there. Like I just want Charlotte's for dinner. And it is a luxury because we just don't we have never, I mean, we just don't eat out very often. And I'm super, we got a health nut in the family and I'm not it, but the younger one is a health nut, and so she's super careful about what she eats, and so it's a luxury item, and I know it would be on there for all of us. And I'm thinking about the number of times that we could stop and say, okay, well, what would we've got a chance to bring us together, or hey, it's been a few days, kids are off at college now, it's been a few days since we've seen each other. What would bring us joy? Anybody want to get together this weekend? I'm ordering Charlotte's. Like I'll pick up Charlotte's, who's in. I know we'd all be in, right? Oh, what a lovely example. It's just having that list.
It is, and it's so simple. A lot of times people are like, well, what would I put on it? And I usually say, think about, this is like a hard one. It's like, think about who you used to be maybe before kids. Or sometimes it's like, what were you like in your first apartment or house after you left your parents' home? We did ramen noodles with Prego. And so sometimes our kids think it's like so funny that I'm like, when we had no money and we needed to eat cheap, like we would take the ramen and not put the like packet in, and we would put Prego and have like noodles and sauce. And so it's just like fun to almost relive some of those things. My parents listened to records growing up. So like listening to records is on my joy list because it reminds me of them. So there's all sorts of things. I would say look backwards, look now, and look ahead. And there's probably all sorts of things that you either haven't done in a while, been meaning to do, or maybe even dreaming to do, of like, yeah, we haven't done that. Like we should.
Oh, that's lovely. Super practical and again, something that any one of us can do. I love it. I love it. So first one was permission and mindset. The second one is make a list. So if you are just joining into this podcast or you tuned out because you were driving and you forgot what you were doing, I'm going to need you to pause for a second, go back to the beginning because this is good stuff. We're here with Lisa Even and we're talking about 4 ways to create more joy. And we got through the first 2. We're on to the third one. Lisa, what is that third way to create more joy?
Yeah, the third one is actually, and this is where I think it's almost like a teeter-totter, that I'm like, if you can do this third one and kind of move the teeter-totter to the other side, is really look at your calendar and put it somewhere. And that's the part where people in a lot of my sessions will be awesome. They'll have a list of 40 things, and then I'll be like, where are we going to put it? Like, when should we do it? And that's the part where you're going to have to lean on that beginning part where you're like, but Lisa, I'm so busy. And the way that we often will tackle things is when we move it from our list to our actual joy calendar, which is literally just our calendar, and we color code it because remember, we're tracking it. I want to like see the joy. And if you don't want to track it, great. But for me, I kind of want to peek at it and be like, my husband and I like to sit down for date night. We'll do, which PS, our date nights are from 3 to 4 p.m., by the way, because we don't have time any other time. We often sit back and look at our calendar almost like a consultant to our own lives. And we look at it and we say, do we have enough? Like, should we add some? And so it's really this action of taking your list and saying, where could we put it? And sometimes we have to get a little bit creative. So if we're doing, make it up, a craft with our kiddos, it's like, okay, on Tuesday, we're going to put the gingerbread house together. And on Wednesday, we're going to have 20 other minutes and we're going to actually frost it. And so we start to look at like the cracks and the crevices of where joy could go. And sometimes the amount of time drives the item. So go back to your list. If you don't have like 20, 30, 40-minute items on your list, you should add some. Whether it's like sometimes I sit at a desk quite a bit. And so sometimes at lunch, I'm walking around our neighborhood with an audiobook and I'm like, this is joy times 3 because I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm outside and I'm walking. So it's really just kind of saying, okay, if the calendar is our new best friend, where do we put it and what fits in that space? And tell yourself you're going to be busy anyway. So you're not adding more things because you're already busy. Like we're going to put a little bit of like 20-minute fun on there and it's going to feel easier because it's not in addition to all the other things. It's like I'm taking the waking hours that I've got. I'm looking at my calendar. I want to do something fun. Let's plop it in there so that it makes sense for your life. Because as we know, the season of life that you're in does affect the joy that you will have. And so your joy with toddlers or a really high level executive job might look different, but that's okay. That's perfect. You should still have joy.
You should still have joy. If you get toddlers, you should still have joy. They have joy.
Yes.
They have joy. Yep. And if you're a high level executive, you should still have joy because you're in charge and responsible for the lives of so many people and they need joy.
Yeah. You
They need
pass it
joy.
on. It's contagious.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So I suspect this is going to air. We're recording this here in early December. I suspect this is going to air very near the holiday season. Lisa, as you've been doing this, have you done anything near or around holiday seasons? And is there like there may be pushback as someone's listening to this going, yeah, sure, I'll start after the holidays and find joy after the holidays. Any advice or counsel for someone who might be thinking, oh no, I'll wait till after the holidays? Can you sneak in joy during the holidays?
Oh, you absolutely can. And I often say, look at the things you're already doing. So if you're making a meal, maybe there's a way to, make it just a little bit more fun. Just the other night, we did Christmas in advance, is what we called it. So we did Christmas dinner at our kitchen table this last Sunday night. And my kids so they're 12 and 9, and they love like those fancy glasses with stems, like almost like the wine or the water glass that you would get at a restaurant. And so to jazz it up, because the meal wasn't really any different than usual, other than we officially sat, is I grabbed those glasses, I filled them with ice water, and my daughter was like, Mom, I would like to make a toast. And I was like, well, please do. Like, I would love that. And so maybe there's something you use different classes, or, you have a Post-it note and you just write something and you slap it on all the plates and it just brightens the moment. Our brains love pattern and stability, but they love a little surprise every now and again. So I always say, like, if there's just something little that you can fold in there, then you should. And I will say that you should let it be messy. Like joy is messy. We took our kiddos to the movie theater. They were rolling around on the floor, throwing popcorn. And my husband's like, we should leave. Like, this is not joyful. And we're in the parking lot of the movie theater, and there's a little bit of grassy area, and our kids are like chasing each other back and forth. And we're looking, my husband and I are like, we need to create joy. This was supposed to be joyful. And he points to our kids and he's like, I think mission accomplished. And they were like busy running around, like playing tag and like having the time of their lives. So let it be messy. Like, just because you thought it was going to be one way and it's another, that's perfect. I had a good friend just yesterday tell me their like 3.5-year-old stood up on their chair in their movie and said, I want to go home. And she laughed. She goes, she yelled really loud and probably scared half of that theater. And so we did. And we had a ton of fun. And it was a funny memory that we will carry. So in the holidays, it's stressful, but just take a moment, and meals are an easy place to start because we're all having them anyway.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So create permission and mindset, make a list, look at your calendar and put it somewhere. And then what's our 4th way to create joy, create more joy at work and at home?
Yeah, I would say share it with someone else. And what I mean by that is we were doing the joy list and the joy calendars as a family. I was doing them with my work teams, but beyond that, we really didn't tell anyone. And I don't know why. It was just more like, guys, we want to have fun. Let's have fun. And so the more that people heard about it, they're like, you have a joy list. Like, what's on your list? Or, hey, we created a joy list. The more you mention it to either family or friends, it's so funny that the ideas that transfer back and forth for more things to add. And then also, we've got a friend couple that now we've got regular like joy dates on the calendar with them. So they bring their kiddos over or we go to their house. And so you'd be surprised at how many people will actually join you on your joy journey. It's just a matter of like, hey, what are some things that, I always say, like, tell them what you're up to. Hey, we're focusing on joy as a family, looking to put some things on the calendar, need some ideas. What do you guys do for joy in your family? They'll either go like one of three ways. They'll say, oh my gosh, here's an idea. Or they'll say, I saw this Pinterest or this TikTok. Or they'll say, honestly, we're not having any, right? There's like that. And then you could invite them to be like, Saturday afternoon, we're doing X. Do you want to join?
Mhm.
Or they're going to kind of look at you like, huh. And that's not a bad thing. People sometimes just process because they're almost looking at their life internally, like in their mind, and saying, I wonder how that works. So just be ready for it. But I think that the art of joy is starting to find out like what are other people up to invite them into your joy. And before you know it, you're going to have like a joy club of people adding things to the list and texting back and forth and being like, well, joy is our job. We must.
We must. Well, and so that's just really lovely. I'm thinking about practical applications here over the holidays, right? Um, Regardless of your faith background, regardless of your cultural background, regardless of your budget in a workplace, regardless of your time, regardless of your food allergies, a group could get together in a workplace and have a 15-minute once a week, hey, we're in the Joy Club exchanging joy ideas. And there's no calories, right? There are no
Yep.
calories. There's no budget. We're just exchanging ideas. It doesn't cost anybody anything to exchange ideas. And we can be co-creating great work days by creating this space where we're giving ourselves permission to have joy. We can create joy at work because frankly, we do spend a lot of our times at work. And maybe there's a way to infuse and inspire joy in the workplace in addition to our home lives, right?
Oh, absolutely. We had a social club that had a joy list. Like they were in charge of like keeping the joy list and then also executing on it. And I had 4 different departments, and we just didn't have the money in the budget for big events. But we were big. I mean, we had over 100 people. And so I would give each location $20 a month for joy execution. And it was truly around this idea of they were doing fun, like post-it note treasure hunts. They were doing Mad Lib competitions, kind of some of the ones that you're probably doing, like babies pictures. We made sandwiches for a homeless shelter. It was really like, it comes back to that permission and that list. And then saying, well, it can't just stay on that list, like get in motion. And, we had some people that were like, well, this doesn't bring me joy, but it brings her joy. So I'm in. And before you knew it, it was like we had people inspired to like share in other people's joy, even though, they were like, I don't think, this is not for me. But it was so great because it was realizing that joy happens to all of us and maybe in just a little bit of a different way. And absolutely in the workplace, like we had virtual holiday bingo and all sorts of things that we just said, in a place, in a space where all we've got are patients with brain tumors and cancer and spine issues. I would say from like the tip of the head to the base of the spine. We need joy and we need to be a light for these people. And if we're not having a little bit of fun, we are going to be no good to our patients and our families. And so to your point, like make a joy list at work. I encourage it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. So this would not be the Even Better podcast, Lisa, if I didn't ask my trademark question. What's making you even better these days?
I think the things that are making me even better are, when you own a business and you first get started, you're like, what am I doing? And then the next like year or two, you're kind of like, okay, I think I kind of know. I think that 2024, the joy that's coming is really just continuing to go bigger. And I think that I had to put a lot of processes and systems in place, but yeah, just to get out there to even more groups and say, what impact are you having? And do you want to have? And are you having fun along the way? So that's bringing me joy. It's just that creative space to go a little bit bigger.
Oh, I love that. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for making time for us today. I'm so grateful for your insights and for your continued mission to inspire joy and have good ripple effects. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And on behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, thank you to our listeners. Thanks for being here, and we hope the rest of your day is even better.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.